When I was the protagonist of a story on Who Has Seen It, but the show didn't exist yet, by Ciro Discepolo, in September 1967, something happened to me that today might seem like something from Who Has Seen It, if it weren't for the fact that the show wouldn't be launched until many years later, in 1989. I'd like to share it as a personal experience because it can give a concrete idea of what it means for a family to not hear from a loved one for several days. I'd recently graduated in July 1967 from the Augusto Righi Institute in Naples in industrial electronics. My passion was electronics, but in the meantime I also cultivated other interests: computers, photography, chess, yoga, homeopathic medicine, psychology. Shortly after graduation, I began collaborating with the CNR Motors Institute, where I handled the maintenance of expensive Tektronix oscilloscopes, delicate instruments that required periodic checks and calibrations. Within a few months, I was even given responsibility for the electronic measurement laboratory. My father, who worked in the field of electromedical equipment, suggested that I follow him into that sector as well, providing technical support for highly sophisticated machinery. For this reason, in September 1967, he sent me to Milan to attend a training course at a company he represented. The company was located on Viale Tunisia, not far from the central station. I was supposed to stay in a small guest house nearby and be met by a family friend who, at my father's request, would pick me up at the station. I left Naples on a second-class ticket. At the time, Frecciarossa trains didn't exist, and the train journey lasted 10 or 12 hours. I remember well that it was mid-September. Everything proceeded normally until we reached Rome. Then, during a stopover, I went to the restroom. When I returned, I found the corridor literally overrun. The train was packed, so crowded that people were crammed together, standing without even room to put a hand in their pocket. I was left standing, unable to return to my seat. The situation became unbearable. Between Rome and Florence, the train made no stops, and at a certain point we entered a long tunnel. The lights went out and someone said we would remain like this until Florence. I had a full-blown panic attack, something I hadn't experienced at the time. I began to have difficulty breathing and faint. I fainted on my feet, crushed by the crowd. The passengers, realizing my condition, lifted me above their heads and passed me from one carriage to another, until I was finally able to lie down and breathe. When the train reached Florence, paramedics came to get me and took me to the hospital. There, a policeman took my information and promised to immediately notify my family in Naples. I felt reassured, confident that my parents now knew where I was, so I remained hospitalized for several days, undergoing checks and tests. The nuns and doctors were kind to me, but no one gave me any news from my family. Days passed and I received no message. After 6 or 7 days, I decided to act alone. I found the hospital payphone, exchanged the few lire I had with me for tokens, and called home. My sister Leah answered, and as soon as she heard my voice, she burst into tears. "Ciro, where are you? We've been looking for you all over Italy for a week." Only then did I realize that the policeman had never called. My parents were in a panic, convinced they had suffered a catastrophe. The next day my mother arrived in Florence, and we returned to Naples. I was so shaken that for years I couldn't take a direct train. I've traveled only on local trains in first class, breaking the journeys into short segments and trying to sit near the windows. That experience affected me deeply. It made me understand firsthand the anguish families feel when a loved one disappears, even for just a few days. It's the same anguish we see depicted in so many episodes of Visto, with the difference that for me, the story ended happily.